Okay, in this video, we're going to apply what we've learned in the past few lessons to some applications just for some extra practice. First one says find an expression to represent the area of a rectangle. We know that the area of a rectangle is length times width, but before we do that, let's actually factor just to make this a little bit easier on us. Let's factor the bottom here. Adds, multiplies would be a -9 and a -3. The top here is difference of squares, which we know will factor into conjugates, plus and minus, x times itself and 9 times itself. The bottom, I can factor out a 4x squared, and you're going to be left with an x plus a 9. So therefore, in order to find the area, now that we have it factored, we're going to multiply length times width. So area will equal the length times the width, so 2x over the factored form, x minus 9 times x minus 3, times x plus 9, x minus 9, over 4x squared times x plus 9. So there's your length times width. Now it's pretty much just canceling. Your monomial, the 2, cancels with the 4, leaves you with a 2. You have 2 x's on bottom, 1 x on top, which would leave you with a single x on bottom. Now the binomials, x minus 9s are gone, x plus 9s are gone. So the area of this would be represented by nothing's left on top, so the 1. And then the monomial first and the x minus 3 second. There's your area. Number 2, find the area of this expression. Again, just length times width. Let's factor each of these, 2 sets of parentheses. X and x, adds, multiplies is a +5, -2. On bottom, simply factor out the 7. You're left with x minus 2. We're going to have to use slip and slide here, so I'm going to come over here and do it. That'll be x squared minus 11x minus 60, which will factor into an x and an x, a -15 and a +4. We slip the 3, so now let's divide by the 3. And that's going to be, we can write it down here now, an x minus 5. 15 divided by 3 would be 5, and a 3x plus 4 when you slide the 3 back up front. Now the 25 minus x squared on bottom, again, I don't like it because the x is not first, so let's first factor out a negative. You're left now with x squared minus 25, which will be equal to negative x plus 5 is difference of squares, and x minus 5. So now let's multiply the two terms together. Area is equal to length times width. So my width down here is going to be, again, x minus 5 times 3x plus 4 over the bottom was a negative and an x plus 5 and an x minus 5 times this term, which is x plus 5 times x minus 2 over 7 parentheses x minus 2. Cross cancel anything that will. Monomials, nothing cross cancels. Now let's go to the binomials. X plus 5s are gone. X minus 2s reduce. X minus 5s also reduce. And I believe that's it. And it leaves you with just the 3x plus 4 on top and a negative and a 7 on bottom. Now that's one way to write the answer, but let me again caution you. If you would like to put the negative on top, it's fine. But don't do this. Don't just put the negative out here, because what you just did was made the 3x negative. If you're going to put the negative on top, make sure you put it in parentheses. The other option is you could actually just put the negative out front. Then you don't have to worry about the parentheses. So either one of those would be fine. The area of a rectangular garden is this. The length is this. Find an expression for the width. So since we know that area is length times width, we're given an area and we're given the length. So we could actually move this over and divide. The width is going to be area divided by length. So we've got to do the area, which is a squared over b minus b, divided by the length, which we just saw was a over b plus 1. When we divide that out, that's going to tell us what the width will equal. So this is a complex fraction. Let's find us some common denominators. We can work these separately. The top is a squared over b minus b over 1. We need a common denominator of a b, so let's multiply top and bottom by a b. And I now have a squared minus b squared over b, which will factor. Those are conjugates on top, difference of squares. 2 sets of parentheses plus minus. That'll be an a times itself and a b times itself. Then on bottom, you still have the b. So there's your top simplified. Down bottom, we have a over b plus 1 over 1. B is going to be our common denominator. Multiply top and bottom by b here. And that's going to give you simply a plus b over b. So you're done with the bottom now. So top divided by bottom is going to be, here's the top, a plus b times a minus b over b. To divide, you're going to flip the bottom and multiply. So b over a plus b. Flip and multiply, the b's are gone. The a plus b's are gone, so therefore the expression for our, I believe, length is a minus b. So we're trying to find the width. So the width would be a minus b here. Number 4, find an expression to represent the area of this triangle. Now the area of a triangle is equal to 1/2 base times height. So we're given here a base and we're given a height. So let's find our area. We've got to do 1/2. Let's go ahead. Area is equal to 1/2 times the base. Now let's go ahead and factor this as we write this down once again. We can factor out an x. We're going to be left with x squared plus 11x minus 26, which we're going to want to factor again. Let's say the top will factor into, I'm just going to write it right there above the top, x times 2 sets of parentheses, x times x gives you the x squared, multiplies to give you negative 26, adds to give you an 11 will be a positive 13 and a negative 2. Now one thing you can do, since this is a monomial on top and this is part of a monomial on bottom, you can go ahead and cancel those x's. So your base, I can now carry it up, is x plus 13 times x minus 2 over 3, because we canceled our x's out, times. Now let's go over here to our height. We can cancel or factor the top. We'll factor out the 9. We're left with an x plus 2. We factor a 6x out of the bottom, and you're left with x squared minus 4. So that's going to factor again, but I'm going to factor it as I write it down. So the top is 9 times x plus 2 over the bottom is 6x times x squared minus 4. This is difference of squares. So that's going to be 6x times conjugates, x times itself, and 2 times itself. So there's our expression. We've got 3 things being multiplied together here. Let's focus on our monomials first. The 3 and the 9 cancels and leaves you with a 3. The 3 and the 6 cancels and leaves you with a 2. And I believe that's everything we can cancel monomial-wise. So now let's move on to the x minus 2's are gone. The x plus 2's are gone. So on top, you are left with the 1 and the x plus 13. On bottom, you have a 2 here and a 2 here, which gives you a 4 and the x. And that's going to be the area of this triangle. So again, let me explain to you what we're doing here. If I were to say, plug in x equals 3 into these expressions and find the area of this triangle, that would be a long process. However, since this represents now the area of the triangle, instead of going through all that, you could just plug a 3 into that. And you get 16 over 12 and reduce it. That's a much faster process than going through plug in 3, then do area equals 1/2 times base times height. To take much longer. Okay, number 5. Number 5 asks us to find the volume of this rectangular prism. The volume of a rectangular prism is length times width times height. It doesn't matter the order, but you're just multiplying all 3 of these measurements together. So before we do that, let's go ahead and factor. We're going to use our slip and slide factoring here. So let's go ahead and do that. That's going to be x squared minus 32x plus 60. That's going to factor into x and x, a negative 2 and a negative 30. Divide everything by 5, and you now have 5x minus 2 and an x minus 6. On bottom, that will not factor, so this one's done. The width here, we'll do in pink. Top won't factor. The bottom, I can factor out a 9 and an x. You're going to be left with 5x minus 2, and that one's now done. And now the third measurement here, The top, simple factoring, x and x, adds multiplies would be a positive 6 and 8. The bottom, now I do have an issue because the 36 is listed first, so I'd factor out a negative to flip-flop those around to get that x first, and then that would factor into conjugates, difference of squares as conjugates. That'd be an x times itself and a 6 times itself. And that one's finished. Now to find the volume, we're going to do length times width times height. It doesn't matter the order, you're just multiplying them all together. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and copy these over for you. Okay, so here's your volume equals length, width, height. Again, the order does not matter if they're in the wrong order because you're just multiplying. Let's start with our monomials. Our 18 and 9 will cross cancel as you with a 2 up top. You can go ahead and cancel x's if you'd like. You have 2 x's here, 1 x here. That's going to leave you with a single x on top. Your 2 will cancel with your 10 and leave you with a 5 and a 1. You don't have to put the 1s. Your x here will cancel with these 3 x's and leave you with 2 x's on bottom. And I believe that's all of our monomial work. So it left you with a negative here and a 5x squared, and that's all the monomials. Let's cancel maybe x plus 6's, the binomials. We can cancel the x minus 6's. We can cancel 5x minus 2's. And we are left with just an x plus 8 on top, a negative 5x squared on bottom. And again, that negative could be placed on top or bottom. Just make sure if you place it on top that you put that x plus 8 in parentheses. Okay, next problem. Number 6, you're again asked to find the volume, or the volume of a rectangular prism is this. Find the height. Now this one's a little tricky, so let's see. Volume is equal to length times width times height. And what I would like to do is take and modify this. Change this around to where it's a formula that tells you the height. Since these are being multiplied, you're going to move these two over by dividing. So what you've got now, volume is equal to, or excuse me, height is equal to volume divided by length times width. So we've got our length and width here. We're going to multiply those together. We're going to do the volume divided by that, and that's going to give us our answer. So let's start out by finding length times width here. So as I copy these two things over, I'm going to go ahead and factor them as I write them down. My 9x squared minus 16 on top, that's a difference of squares. It's going to factor into conjugates. So it'll be a 3x times itself plus and minus and a 4 times itself over. On bottom, you have x squared plus 2x minus 35, which will factor into x times itself, a positive 7 and a negative 5 times 8x squared minus 40x. We're going to factor out an 8x, and we're left with x minus 5. On bottom, 3x minus 4 will not cancel. So there is your length times width. Now let's go through and clean this up. 3x minus 4s are gone. X minus 5s are gone. And that's going to leave you with, scroll down on me, an 8x on top and a 3x plus 4 on top over an x plus 7 on bottom. Now a reminder from our formula. Volume was equal to length times width times height. We are looking for height, so we got rid of these by dividing by length times width. So we've got to do volume divided by length times width. This is length times width. So now our volume, it tells us right here, our volume is 12x plus 16. So we've got to do 12x plus 16 divided by that stuff. 8x times 3x plus 4 over x plus 7. And a reminder to divide, you're going to take your bottom, you're going to flip and multiply. So I'm going to factor as I do this. The top is now 4 times 3x plus 4, and you can put that over 1 if you'd like. We're going to flip and multiply by the bottom. That'd be an x plus 7 over 8x times 3x plus 4. When we cross cancel to do this, our 4 and our 8 leaves you with just a 2 on bottom. The 3x plus 4s are gone, so I'm left with an x plus 7 on top and a 2 and an x, and that's it on bottom, just the 2x. So therefore, there is your height. Okay, number 7 says find an expression to represent the perimeter. Now here's your perimeter. You can either add up all the sides, that's fine, but when you're dealing with ugly expressions like this, using the actual formula is a little bit easier. The formula says that you can find perimeter of a rectangle by doing 2L plus 2W. Why? Because there's 2 of these and there's 2 of these. So as we write these down, let's factor it. The perimeter is going to equal 2, and I'm doing 2 over 1, times this term, and I'm going to factor that. That's going to be an x times x plus 8 over x plus 5 plus 2 times this term. And that's not going to factor, so we'll leave it as 15 over x plus 5. There we go. So when we multiply by the 2's, I now have a 2x times x plus 8 over x plus 5. And on top over here, I have 2 times 5, which is a 30 over x plus 5. It's so nice that we already have common denominators. So combine your like term, or excuse me, distribute first. 2x times x is 2x squared. Then 2x times 8 will be a plus 16x. And since we have our common denominator, we could actually go ahead and write that over x plus 5 and just do the plus 30. Now the top will, let's see, yeah, the top will factor. Let's factor out a 2 first, and we're left with x squared plus 8x plus 15 over x plus 5. And it'll factor one more time. That'd be a 2, and then 2 sets of parentheses. That's an x and an x. Adds, multiplies a positive 3 and a positive 5 over x plus 5. The x plus 5's are gone, and our final expression for the perimeter is 2 times x plus 3. Okay, number 8. Number 8 again tells us to find the perimeter of this expression. And if you would like to, especially down here, we can go ahead and factor this. This one's pretty much factored. But here we can factor out an x. We're left with x minus 4. On bottom, let's see, we can factor that into adds, multiplies would be an x minus 4 and an x minus 1, which actually works out great because this would be valuable. Go ahead and reduce this down. And this expression is going to be x over x minus 1. And if you notice then, you've already got common denominators for when you've got to add. So my perimeter of this expression is going to be 2 of these plus 2 of these. So we have 2 times 6 over x minus 1 plus 2 times x over x minus 1, which will be a 12 over x minus 1 plus a 2x over x minus 1. Combine your tops, and I always like to write the x stuff first. 2x plus 12 over x minus 1. Just make sure it's not going to reduce. Factor out the 2. You're left with 2 times x plus 6 over x minus 1. That will not reduce, so there's your final answer. The next one. Write an expression to represent the area of the trapezoid. The area of a trapezoid, here's your formula. Area is equal to 1/2 times the height times, we'll call it a plus b. So you've got to add your a plus b, which are your bases, your top base and bottom base. We've got to add those and then multiply 1/2 times height times the sum. So let's start out, and I think we can do it right here. Let's start out by adding our two bases, x plus 3 over x. We've got to add that to x plus 9 over 2x. Very simple common denominator. We need a 2. So we're going to multiply top and bottom by 2. So you now have 2x plus 6 plus x plus 9 all over your common denominator. So that would be a 3x plus 15 over 2x. So that is your a plus b in your formula. So now we have area is equal to 1/2 times the height is this expression, and I'm going to go ahead and factor that before I write it down. The only thing it's going to factor is the bottom. Adds, multiplies is a -7, +5. So you have 1/2 times 12x over x minus 7 times x plus 5 times a plus b, which was this expression here, and I'm going to factor it as I write it down. The top, the 3 factors out of the top, that's going to be 3 parentheses x plus 5 over 2x. So now we're just cleaning it up from there. The monomials, 2 and 12 cancels, leaves you with a 6. The 2 and a 6 would cancel, leave with a 3. The two x's cancel completely. And I believe that's it for the monomials. I'm left with a 3 here and a 3 here, and that's it. The x plus 5s are gone. And that leaves you with a 9 on top and an x minus 7 on bottom. And that's an expression for the area of this trapezoid. Okay, number 10. It says write an expression to represent the surface area of the rectangular prism. Now, the way I like to do surface area, there are 6 surfaces here. There's the front, there's the back, there's the right, there's the left, there's the top, there's the bottom. Right and left, identical. Front and back, identical. Top and bottom, identical. So what I like to do is find the area of each of those and then just double it. So let's start out with the area of the front. Here is the dimensions of the front. To find the area, we're going to do it's a rectangle. We're going to multiply the two together. So you have 3 over 2x times 6 over x. Cross cancel the 2 and 6, leaves you with a 3 and a 1. You have a 9 on top and an x squared on bottom. So the area of the front would be 9 over x squared. Let me erase the extra. Now let's do the right side. The right side has a dimension here of x over 4, and the height is 3 over 2x. So we're going to do x over 4 times 3 over 2x. Here the x's would cancel and gives you an area of 3/8. So let's go ahead and erase, and the area of the right side will be 3/8. And then you have the top side. The width here would be 6 over x, and then it is this far deep, so that's x over 4. So we're going to do 6 over x times x over 4. The x's cancel. The 6 and 4 reduces to a 3 and a 2, so you get 3 halves. So our dimensions are, or our areas are, 9 over x squared, a 3 over 8, and a 3 over 2. And again, we have 2 of each of those. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and multiply each of those dimensions by 2 over 1. And we're going to add those together. That's all of our areas doubled and then added together. Here, we're going to have 18 over x squared. Here, the 2 and the 8 cross cancel and leaves you with plus 3 over 4. And here, the 2's cross cancel and leaves you with plus 3 over 1. Common denominator is going to be, I need a 4 here, so let's multiply top and bottom by 4. Here I need an x squared, so multiply top and bottom by x squared. Here we're going to multiply by both 4 and x squared, top and bottom. So therefore I have 72 over 4x squared plus 3x squared over 4x squared plus 12x squared over 4x squared. So there's your common denominator, 4x squared, and then let's add our tops together. 3x squared and 12x squared gives me 15x squared plus 72. And from there, you can try to factor, but that will not reduce.